Type.
All right, everybody. How we doing? Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, sweet, sweet. Let me get this up here. All right, can we see that?
There you go.
Good.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about 3 tips to help cultivate behavior change. Right. So it's entitled Empowered 3 Tips to Help Cultivate Behavior Change. And so for me, I guess maybe I'm the only one that encounters clients and wonder, how is it that they are not able to handle their finances the way that I handle my finances? Right. And so that got me to thinking, like, what prevents behavior change? How does it, or how is it, I should say, that a person comes to me as a financial counselor and after I dispense all of my wisdom to them, they still go out and make the same mistakes that they were basically are the mistakes that caused them to come see me in the first place. So then I get to thinking, what do we have already on the market? And there's this thing called the SWOT analysis, the strengths, weaknesses, outcomes, and threats, or opportunities and threats. And so that identifies behavior, right? So what we want to do today is identify the behavior, and we want to take a 360-degree analysis of the behavior that we're looking to change or modify. And then I'm going to show you the tool that I came up with or kind of tweaked to make it applicable to financial counselors across the spectrum, and then what to do with the results. So now these are the learning objectives. I'm not going to read them in full, primarily because this was designed to be an hour-long session, so I'm condensing it. But I'm going to leave it up here for you to see. But one of the biggest ones that I will point out is that you will gain the confidence in identifying and navigating core resistant issues. And I say core because it's not going to be all encompassing. It's just those things that typically show up more often than not as resistances to change. All right. So what's the first point? We want to identify the desired change. What behavior does the client want to change? And how do we do that? So what I typically do is I walk clients through this simple kind of sentence completion. If they want to change or modify the behavior, I'll have them finish a statement such as, my financial situation would be better if I could change or modify. And I will have them speak it exactly that way and then finish the sentence. So my financial situation would be better if I could change or modify my discretionary spending, the amount of money that I bring in, if I can change the amount of money that leaves my bank account each month. Now, if the desire is to maintain the behavior, then you want to have them finish this sentence. The impact to my life, the financial, relational, etc., that impact has been positive since adopting. Now, this second question is really about getting them to see the positive aspects of engaging in behavior change, which kind of creates the momentum and the motivation to maintain or stay the course. Does that make sense, everyone? Let me pull up the chat so I can see. All right. So the second point is, so now we've identified the behavior change. Now point 3 is, well, what do we do? How do we actually create a 360-degree assessment, or how can we conduct it? And that's where I want to briefly introduce you to this tool that I call the Financial Behavioral SWOT, or FB-SWOT, right? And this is really, you see this spiral staircase. It's like, where do we start? Well, let's just get into the meat of it. And when you look at the Financial Behavioral SWOT, or the SWOT itself, what I did was I took and modified the the SWOT to the O of the SWOT. And we'll talk about that in a second. So the strengths in this column I would have the client include or identify the positives, the benefits, and these are internal to them, that comes from either changing or modifying or maintaining the behavior that they have engaged in. Most of the time, it's changing behavior, and that's the reason a client comes to us initially. And that's what this is really geared towards. But then you also have clients that become fearful and things like that after they've engaged in behavior change. So all of that, and you will take some time with that. And there is an accompanying PDF that I will share with Andy that she can send out to all of you, just to really break down how to walk through this. And I give you some additional tips and some things to keep in mind. The second spot, or the second part of this assessment, is to examine the weaknesses. Now, similar to the strengths, the weaknesses are also internal. But I use weaknesses just to stay with the SWOT analysis. Really, these are the resistances that a person might come up against, right? The fear of FOMO, fear of missing out, specifically when a person does not engage in the behavior that other people do. I think about this one football star that had a $500,000 contract and was trying to go and keep up with his peers that had $1 million contracts. And in doing so, essentially caused himself to go into bankruptcy and financial ruin, all because he was trying to maintain. That would be a weakness, this lack of sense of self, that I need to keep up with those that are in my sphere, as opposed to saying or staying in my lane. $500,000 is a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money when you compare it to millions of dollars that people get, multi-million-dollar contracts. So that would be some type of weakness inside of the person that you will want to explore. On the outcomes, this is where I switched it, because this original SWOT uses opportunities, but this is the outcome. And this is where we start shifting now from the internal environment to the external environment of the client. What are those things that might benefit the person in their relationships? How might their significant relationships change? How might their relationships with their loved ones change? Their children, with themselves? But most importantly, what are the things that they will get to do? I'll get to retire when I want to. I can retire early if I begin to. I can take my significant other on vacations. I can do whatever. It's those external things that can begin to happen as a result of the change. Does that make sense to anyone? Anyone has any questions right now? All right. I'm looking at the chat as well, but if you do, you can always raise your hand or something like that if it doesn't seem clear. And now the threats. The threats is the part also, just like the weaknesses are external resistances, the threats are internal resistances. Let me say that again. The weaknesses are internal resistances. The threats are external resistances. So now keep in mind, most people, sometimes they have their finances combined. Sometimes they have them separate if they're in relationships with another person. It's more so when it's combined and the person starts saying, hey, I want to do this. Or specifically, I'm thinking now of a client that I have that he's in a relationship and his partner wants to do certain things, but he's thinking about getting out of debt and he wants to be financially stable. But this external threat is this relationship that he values. And by not doing or spending the way that the other person wants to, it can be jeopardizing to the relationship. That's a threat. It's outside of him. It's the thing that happens as a result. How might my relationships with other people shift as a result of this? Right? I can't do these things now. That's a threat. These people might look at me weird. That's a threat. And it takes time. I'm just throwing out some examples. And if you want, let's do this. Let me give y'all an opportunity to participate in this. In the chat, put out some things outside of you that you have to consider before you get to engage in any type of financial change or financial transaction? Kids, yeah, husband, spouse, wife, spouse buying, expectations of others, mindset, caregiver, all of these things are external. How others will perceive you, that's that same concept. That it's also sometimes threats can also be similar in a sense. When going back to that NFL player who was wanting to keep up, how might these other people perceive me if I'm not spending, if I don't have that Bugatti, if I don't have that souped out Porsche or that Maybach or whatever, if I don't go and get a house that I really don't need with 85 rooms in it, like how might they see me? What might they think of me? What might my people think of me if I'm not spending like I have all this money? Because they know I have an NFL contract. Yeah, yeah, awesome, awesome, good stuff, y'all. And that's the part that, and this is when you take the totality of this, now you begin to get a sense of, okay, these are some of the reasons that people are not really engaging. Because if we just talk about all of the strengths, oh yeah, you're going to get to retire and you'll see your bank account grow. That's only one part of that's only one part of this person's life. We're not considering these other factors. And that's how we start getting into blind spots, and we start becoming enmeshed in a client and really beginning to push them a little bit more. But when we look at this from this 360-degree view, now we have a better sense of, okay, how can I support them in this? And so the goal really, let me close this chat down. So the goal really is to get clear on what most likely is preventing the modification or the continuation of engaging in the process of financial behavior change. We want people to get on this thing. We're in this space because we want to help people. Right? But then as counselors, as financial professionals, when a person is not moving forward, it might be like it's easy to begin to internalize that and say, wow, what am I doing wrong? Oh my goodness. Oh my God, I suck as a financial counselor. Maybe I shouldn't be in this space. I am unable to help this person. I've been racking my brain, but you've only been treating one part of the entire equation that makes up the ecosystem of this client. Yes, ego kicks in. um, and so we want to identify the potential areas and the weaknesses and the threats, because those are the pieces that will require most help, but sometimes it can also require referral to a mental health professional. And then it puts you, the AFC candidate, the CFP, the whatever acronyms or letters you have behind your name as a financial professional. It puts you in the best position, as I said before, to support the client. What kind of support do you need? How can I best support this person navigating this? Right now, we get to the point of, okay, so that was point 2, was doing it, introducing you to the tool. Now we've gone through the tool, you have the pieces. Now you need to learn how to address or to work with those weaknesses and those threats. And there are 4 main questions that you want to think about. Now, I know this probably looks really, really small on your screens, so don't worry, there are individual slides for each one. I just wanted to give you a sense overall globally of what this is going to look like. So don't try to read that. Here's question 1. What does your client need to do so that the identified weaknesses are minimized or removed? What shifts are required for the client to navigate that internal environment? All right. So now if I gave you, I'm going to give you, let's go back to, let's use the NFL player, since I just used them all throughout this scenario. What might this client need to do? If this, let's say this NFL client came to you, $500,000, and you're like, what? You got financial problems? Yes, financial problems. But the weakness of not fitting in, not appearing, how might you, what does that client need to do? Let's get some ideas or some thoughts flowing into the chat. What might the client need to do so that those weaknesses, the lack of sense of self, or the not keeping up, okay, work on reframing, understand what 500K really means. Yes. I have enough. I am enough. Mindset, know thyself, therapy. Yeah. But it might come out, Taylor, that there is a need for that person to get connected with the mental health professional. Changing connections. Yes. And let me see who said, I saw something about their balancing the strengths. Where is that at?
That was me.
Okay. So balancing the strength is really, really good, because it's the strengths that you will use to help the person navigate. So in the shifts, so now let's go to the second part of this question. What shifts might be required for this client to begin to navigate that internal environment? Who is their hero for quality of life? Okay, I like that. Compare where they are now to compare where they are now to where they were. Yeah, that can be pretty good. Have some of the income go to a separate account. Yep. Motivation factors. Yes. Yes. One of the things that's really important, and that I do a lot, is I will get a sense of what this client, their internal system is, and say, okay, now what's important to you? Because although I think I know, I don't have any idea really. So I'm aligning myself and I'm putting myself in the best position to support the client. They do have a short professional life. Yes. Find their why. Right. So what does it mean for you to be financially secure, financially stable? Right. Now, if I don't understand what goes on in their internal environment, that also means some of the residue and some of the stain. And this is where someone said therapy might be helpful, and I agree, because if that internal environment is a residue, a stain, something that's a little more traumatic, that has negatively impacted their mindset and their sense of self, they might need to get connected to a mental health provider, because that means there's going to be a lot more unpacking that comes with that. Do they need a Tom Brady mansion to be happy? Yeah, I like that. I like that one. Question number 2. How can you leverage the strengths to provide the energy for navigating the internal resistances? Right. Now, I know I didn't have y'all talk about any of the strengths of that NFL player, but just generate to mind a client that you've worked with, or a mock client, or anything that you have a sense of their strengths, that the things that they're good at. How might you leverage that?
Have them do
to
more of
help
it.
them? Because the resistances are real. Persistence, focus, goal oriented. Yes. What else might you do? Self-confidence. Builds self-confidence. Write down their weekly wins. I love it. I love it. Is that, oh yeah, internal family systems. I know IFS. Yes.
We're going to be acronym police.
So that becomes the thing, right? We really want accountability. Identify why their strengths are their strengths. And sometimes their strengths might be the exact opposite of the weakness. It's like that. I think about Superman with Bizarro, right? And how it was almost like the opposite of Superman, but he still had the strength, but he was just like a klutz, right? He did nothing really right. How can we leverage that? How can we build? It makes me think about Vygotsky's sociocultural model. How can we scaffold the things that they already do good, the things that they already know, to help them get to this point where they are really growing, they're really seeing themselves in a positive light, and they understand that I might still be touched by these resistances, but I know I don't have to fear them anymore. Yes, fitness, spirituality. Yes, absolutely. All right. Now let's go to question 3. In question 3, if you haven't seen, it's really this looking at the internal or external resistance, and then look at the internal or external strength. So that question 4 will cover that piece. So what capacity does your client have to diminish the impact of the threats? What capacity? This is that level of influence. And sometimes anxiety is invoked in this space because a person does not know how much they can control that external environment. So can I influence it at all? Can I change the way people are going to look at me? Maybe not. So then that leads to the question of what internal shifts might be required to navigate the potential reactions from or for that external environment. So let me put it this way, and I want y'all to jump in the chat on this second part. If I know that I can't change the way people look at me, or I can't influence what they think about me, then what internal shifts might I need to do to navigate the potential reactions for that external environment? Because I have to operate within it. Prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Okay. Find new friends. Yeah, I like that one. Who else got something? Who else got some set boundaries? Yeah. Yes. Employee resiliency. Yeah. See, this is internal confidence. Decide whose opinion really matters. Change your reaction to their opinions. Yeah. Do I have to respond to that? Show them why they don't need to worry. Recenter. Stop comparing yourself. Daily affirmations. Project a positive behavior. All good stuff. Mindfulness. Wow. Got it going. Okay. Yeah. Know where you want to go. Now, what if this is a spouse? What if that external resistance is a spouse? And you can't find it. I mean, you could find a new spouse, but maybe you don't want to. So how do you do that? Yeah, divorce. Therapy, journal, talk it out. Yeah, invite them to your dreams. Find common ground. Ooh, yeah. All of these things. Now, I'm going to say the one thing that becomes really, really necessary if we're going to have clients begin to navigate the potential reactions for the environment that's external to them, we need to get them to understand that it's going to require energy. It's going to require mental energy. It's also going to require physical energy. Same thing with the internal resistances, the weaknesses as well. And that's where question 4 becomes important. So how can you leverage the outcomes to that external resistance, or so that external resistances do not prevent behavior change? And some of this kind of what y'all were saying, right? Find common goals, get common ground. Yeah, try to bring that person in on your dreams. Let them see what it will be like if. And I because I brought this up a little bit ago when I was talking about a client of mine, and they eventually, who somebody said divorce. They're not married yet, but they was initially going to split. And then I met with him again. He said, "No, we're gonna stay together. We decided that it's worth working out." Right. But it takes, and I tell them, it takes mental energy, it takes physical energy to be able to navigate this stuff. If you can't do anything other than give them that, hey, little presenter, be quiet. That's my dog, y'all. He thinks he's tough, but he's really not. Um,
We
so,
couldn't hear him, so you're good.
oh, okay, good. So you want to get the client to begin to look at the positive outcomes, those outcomes. And that will also help when we start talking about engaging or continuing in this behavior change. You have to merge your values and your goals with those of your partner. Good stuff. Strong mental fortitude. Yes, energy is necessary. Energy is necessary. All right. All right. Let me get here. That's me. I'm a proud 2022 FINRA fellow, and all of those other things. But I'm gonna go to Q&A if y'all have any other questions.